Hey everybody, I'm Desmond Hall. I'm going to read a bit of the opening from my novel, Your Corner Dark. Your Corner Dark in Jamaica means being stuck between a rock and a hard place with no good choices to be made. And my main character, Frankie, is a high school student in Jamaica who gets a full ride scholarship to go to and study in America, study engineering. And then a stray bullet catches his father, and Frankie has to choose between saving his father's life and taking the scholarship. So you could say to Frankie, boy, your corner dark. So here's chapter 1. Frankie put down his empty water bucket on the side of a steep mountainside road that was just wide enough for a Hyundai and 2 well-fed goats. The sun had only just started to warm, too early for the post office to be open. Still, Frankie gazed at the ramshackle building. His scholarship letter could be inside. It was nearly all he thought about these days. If it came, if it brought good news, he soon might be headed off to study in America. Jamaica was so in debt that it could hardly afford hope. But hope was Frankie's light, one that he shined often. In the distance lay miles and miles of lush green forest and fields, and beyond that the capital city of Kingston. A handful of 20-story structures sat in the center of the skyline, near the Olympic Stadium, where he'd once seen Jamaican sprinters practice relays. There stood the University of West Indies campus. Frankie knew he could get into their engineering program, but all a Jamaican diploma guaranteed was more debt. Jobs for young people were just too hard to find. Gnats circled his head. Frankie stuck a forefinger in the corner of his eye and removed a dead one. He studied it. His own career might be as short-lived, even if he got a chance to study at the University of Arizona. A classmate's older brother had recently come back from America. He hadn't been able to secure work, even though he had a master's degree in engineering. No way was Frankie going to let that happen. He flicked the gnat away. The rev of an engine broke the early morning quiet. A black Toyota barreled down the mountain towards him. A thumping bass and pulsating rhythm rippled through the humid air. Sizzler's raspy voice and reggae lyrics flowing from the car's stereo. His Uncle Joe's long, sinewy arm emerged from the window of the shotgun seat. In his hand, a Glock revolving in a slow, tight circle like a predator stalking prey. Frankie smiled, then pulled it back to a smirk. His uncle always kept a round in the chamber. Pulling the slide took time, and time was what you didn't have when things got ugly. Uncle Joe had his finger on the trigger, and the road had a lot of potholes. A step to the left or a step to the right to get out of range would have been the smart thing to do, because accidents happened. But Frankie held his ground. The Toyota rolled to a stop in front of Frankie. "Pop, pop, pop!" his uncle shouted, his thick brown dreads making his angular face look even more so. He lowered his gun and extended his fist. Frankie bumped it with his own, catching a whiff of weed so skunky it had to be good. Uncle Joe's red eyes confirmed it. Icebox was at the wheel, engulfing the driver's side with his massive frame. He was one of Joe's enforcers. His other, Buck, sat in the back seat, talking on his cell phone. "Wagwan, nephew?" Joe asked. "You hear about scholarship?" Frankie couldn't go anywhere without being asked about that question. "Not yet, Uncle." Joe pulled back his locks, gazing at him. "If you get it, you're going to run away from Jamdown. You're going to leave your people." Joe was smiling, but his words felt like a slap. "But not running away, Uncle." Joe held up a hand for Frankie to wait as his phone buzzed. He searched his pockets, pulled out a flip phone and a black phone, and he answered the black phone. The flip phone was prepaid, Frankie knew, with nothing tied to his uncle's name. and the black phone had special encryption in case he had to send a message. Like Joe had just sent a message with his disc. You're going to run away from Jamdo. Sure, Frankie wanted to leave Jamaica for the job opportunities in America. All his friends did. Jamaica was like a messed up parent. You loved it, but at the same time you wanted to leave it. You said bad things about it, but you'd get mad if anyone else said anything bad about it. Frankie wanted to explain that. He paced while his uncle barked at whoever was on the other line. Finally, Joe clicked off the phone. Yes, no, nephew. "Me not running away, uncle," Frankie said again. "Once I set myself over there, I'm coming back. Gonna do some big things for Jamaica." "Big things, eh?" Joe nodded slowly. "Ambition is important. Just not forget, it's here you're born, and it's here you for come back and spread your roots. And you must watch out for Babylon, cause it's bigger in America than even in Jamdo." Frankie nodded back slowly. For his uncle and all Rastafarians, Babylon meant corruption in the government and police forces. Joe loved to rail against Babylon as much as he loved to smoke ganja. "All the wickedness and oppression them perpetrate is a sin, me tell you," Joe went on. "Them allow rich man in suit and tie to steal money them don't even need. Poor people steal to eat and them go jail." He sucked his teeth hard. Frankie looked away toward the post office, then back to Joe. "But uncle, you do jobs for the PNP." Joe wore an "oh please" look on his face. "Me work for the devil that pays me. But that doesn't mean me won't call the devil a devil. PNP," he slowly drew out the letters. "That's supposed to be People's National Party. Now, you're going to stand there and tell me they really do anything for the people except feed them bogus theories on how to live?" He tapped his gun against the side of the car. "And the other joke, JLP, Jamaica Labour Party. They don't create any decent jobs for normal people." Frankie folded his arms. He'd been doing a lot of reading up on America lately. He might spend 4 years there. They had two main parties too, as far as he could tell. The JLP was conservative like the Republican Party and looked out for businesses. The PNP was liberal and pushed for the rights of workers. But it couldn't be that simple, could it? Some kids in school were really political, but Frankie thought they were just sounded like they were repeating things their parents had said. Would he become more political if he went to America? He wasn't sure, but he wasn't here in Jamdo. Joe shook his head. JLP, PNP, whatever effing political party is the same thing, he frowned. "Yeah man, like me said, me have to work for them, but we don't have to go with their bullshit." He looked towards Kingston in the distance. "Them protect me from police. Let me get them votes. And you know how important that is, right? Whoever wins in Kingston for the vote wins Jamaica. I tell you, it's just one big shit stem." Joe's Rastafarian accent was thick, sometimes even difficult for Frankie to understand. But there was no doubt he was down for his people. It was probably the reason everyone in his posse loved him so much. Icebox tapped Joe's shoulder. "Where for go, man? Going be late." Joe turned to Frankie. "We'll give you a ride, but me have business in town. Later, nephew." He slapped the dash and the Toyota pulled away. Frankie watched until the wave of dust kicked up from the tires settled. Things were always exciting when Joe was around, even if nothing really happened. Frankie liked the thrill. He knew he shouldn't. Posse life wasn't for him. But still, it stalked him like a bullet in the night.